steady little ladder by the pantry door. We bought it painted in a glossy shade of white. It took the heavy footsteps on the upper tier. A physical devotion in the starting year. But climbing up the timber takes a fading toll, a gradual erasing of the painted soul. The friction of the soles wears the coating thin, exposing all the raw material within. The white enamel vanishes into a gray, a testament of effort on a busy day. It loses all the aesthetic of a rigid mold, becoming something rugged, getting brave and old. The naked timber offers up a better grip, a flawless navigation preventing a slip. The wood surrenders vanity to build a base, a reliable mechanic in a working space. The worn step holding up the heavy weight, a loyal little partner altering the fate. We ground the pristine surface to a naked pine, an engineered a shelter crossing your design. You cannot reach the cabinet on a fragile ground. I trust the sturdy timber we have always found. The worn step holding up the heavy weight, a loyal little partner altering the fate. We ground the pristine surface to a naked pine, an engineered a shelter crossing your design. You cannot reach the cabinet on a fragile ground. I trust the sturdy timber we have always found. Used to judge the beauty by the outer gleam, a superficial logic in a passing dream. But standing on the mirror is a risky game, a terrifying tremble in a slippery frame. The battered little stool absorbs the human tread, translating all the action into words we said. I place my weary boots upon the rugged board and harvest all the magic we can well afford. Step upon the pine, feel the timber hold, reach the upper shelf, let the truth unfold. The damage is a symptom of a steady trust. I realize that hoping for an untouched stare is missing all the logic in the open air. Love requires a rubbing of the outer shell to regulate the balance, and to do it well we let the passing friction wear the color down and validated every journey through the town. I stand upon the anchor in the fading night, accepting the devotion of a steady height. The worn step, step it up, step it up, step it. A loyal little partner altering the fate. Hold it firm, we ground the pristine surface to a naked pine, an engineered a shelter crossing your design. You cannot reach the cabinet on a fragile ground. I trust the sturdy timber we have always found. The paint is gone, the base is strong, we are high.
A metal tube pointing at the velvet sky, a tool of navigation for the human eye. We bought it with a brilliant and a golden gleam. We pulled the sliding segments out to reach the end, to magnify the distance of the stars we send. But holding up the brass requires a sweaty palm, a physical disruption of the metal calm. The coastal salt evaporates upon the shell, a chemical reaction working very well. The golden mirror tarnishes to cloudy brown, a dedicated shadow falling on the crown, and it loses all the aesthetic of just a cylinder for weary eyes, but looking through the crystal yields a sharp design, a flawless calculation crossing out the line. The outer layer fades into a rugged grace, but crystal holds the focus in a steady space. The tarnished spyglass, aiming at the distant light, a loyal piece of metal cutting through the night. We wore the bitter polish to a darkened stain and engineered a vision, making matters plain. You cannot see the future with the blinded eye. I trust the cloudy cylinder to read the sky. The tarnished spyglass, aiming at the distant light, a loyal piece of metal cutting through the night. We wore the bitter polish to a darkened stain and engineered a vision, making matters plain. You cannot see the future with the blinded eye. I trust the cloudy cylinder to read the sky. We used to value instruments by shiny brass, ignoring all the logic as the seasons pass. But shiny things distract you from the distant goal, a miserable trick upon a searching soul. The cloudy metal centers all the passing rays, providing a direction in the summer haze. The lens aligns perfectly upon a single spark, a permanent devotion glowing in the dark. Slide the copper out, hold the visual frame, catch the burning star, win the sailing game. The blemish is a badge of an effective tool, a beautiful survivor breaking every rule. I realize that hoping for an endless glow is missing all the substance that the lovers know. Love requires a spotting of the inner light to calibrate the vision in the darkest night. We let the coastal weather ruin up the coat and validated every journey on the boat. I hold the heavy cylinder against my face, accepting the perfection of a guided space. The tarnished spyglass, aiming at the distant light, a loyal piece of metal cutting through the night. We wore the bitter polish to a darkened stain and engineered a vision, making matters plain. You cannot see the future with the blinded eye. I trust the cloudy cylinder to read the sky. The brass is dark, the star is clear, we are fine.
A plastic gun resting in a crafting tray. We push the cloudy cylinder inside the back to generate a binding on a broken track. The element applied a rising plea. But cooling down the engine leaves a solid mess, a devastating error causing a distress. The melting plastic hardens in the narrow tip, a permanent conclusion on a sinking ship. I plugged the heavy wire in the socket wall, expecting a reaction to a gentle call. The iron gathers temperature to melt the block, a miserable waiting on a tick binding fails. I try to push the lever, but the plastic binds. You cannot fix a union when the glue is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. Try to push the lever, but the plastic binds. You cannot fix a union when the glue is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. We acted like the tension would just melt away, a magic dissolution at the end of day. But keeping all the anger in the narrow tube is guaranteeing failure of the plastic cube. The current pushes power, but the exit seals a devastating summary of how it feels. The tool is just a hollow and a useless shell, a freezing limitation in an empty hell. Squeeze the plastic grip, hear the empty click. Fail to melt the bond, watch the shadows stick. The passage is an obstacle we cannot pass, a devastating ending on a fragile glass. I realize that forcing an unyielding block is multiplying damage on the ticking clock. Love requires a clearing of the inner vein to circulate the meaning and absorb the pain. We let the cold solidify the vital paste and turned a working vessel to a bitter waste. I unplugged the heavy wire from the bedroom wall, accepting the reality of losing all. The clogged nozzle freezing in a solid core, watch it stick. Try to push the lever, but the plastic binds. I try to push the lever, but the plastic binds. You cannot fix a union when the glue is dead. I leave the frozen plastic and the tears we shed. The heat is gone, the tube is jammed. I am done.
Placed it on the summit of the wooden roof to navigate the weather and provide the proof. It turned around the axis with the D's, but sitting in the elements provides a tax. But sitting in the element provides a tax, a physical reduction of the spinning wax. The rain invades the cylinder and finds the gear. The iron oxidizes in a rigid crust. The wind is blowing heavy from the southern sky, a desperate collision that the clouds supply. The vane refuses turn into the changing wind, a paralyzed mechanic we have always pinned. The axis is corrupted by a heavy rust. The rusted vane freezing on the highest peak, a tragic limitation that the shadows seek. I watch the heavy weather blowing past the frame, a miserable ending in a losing game. You cannot read a journey when the spin is dead. I stare at the disaster of the words we said. A tragic limitation that the shadows seek. I watch the heavy weather blowing past the frame, a miserable ending in a losing game. You cannot read a journey when the spin is dead. I stare at the disaster of the words we said. like the stubbornness was standing strong, defying all the boundaries of a moving song. But freezing up the pivot is a fatal flaw, the most pathetic vanity the world ever saw. The arrow indicates a very distant past, a ghostly apparition that will never last. The storm demands a yielding to the passing air, a flexible devotion that we cannot share. Watch the iron bird, hear the howling breeze, fail to turn around, let the engine freeze. The mechanism shattered on a selfish pride, a permanent division on a dark divide. I realize that pointing in a single way is throwing out the magic of a changing day. Love requires an axis that is smooth and free to navigate the turning for the you and me. We let the silent moisture eat the silver pin and validated all the tragedy we are in. I walk away and leave the metal on the height, accepting the disaster of a frozen night. The rusted vane, freezing on the highest peak, a tragic limitation that the shadows see. I watched the heavy weather blowing past the frame, a miserable ending in a losing game. You cannot read a journey when the spin instead. I leave the frozen metal and the words we said. The bird is stuck, the wind is cold, I'm done.
A heavy stone sitting in a granite bowl, a solid piece of mountain taking up a road. We bought it from the market with the rough design, a jagged little texture on the line. It crushed the garlic pieces with a brutal bite, but pounding on the bottom takes a steady toll, a physical erasing of the rocky soul. The friction of the grinding rubs the edges down. The sharp design surrenders to a rounded slide, the crushing and the lines into a custom curve, a dedicated instrument prepared to serve. It pulverizes pepper with a velvet touch, erasing all the stopping that we hated much. The rocky surface yields to the steady press, a beautiful solution to a daily mess. The worn pestle turning the granite base, a loyal little partner in a working space. We ground the bitter edges to a soothing round and engineered a flavor we have finally found. You cannot blend the story with the jagged stone. I hold the smooth handle I have always known. The worn pestle turning the granite base, a loyal little partner in a working space. We ground the bitter edges to a soothing round and engineered a flavor we have finally found. You cannot blend the story with the jagged stone. I hold the smooth handle I have always known. We used to force the mixture in a rapid strike, a terrifying notion we were two alike. But time allows the granite to dictate the speed, the gentle calibration for the daily need. The stone absorbs the aroma of the passing year, a physical recording of the atmosphere. I press the rounded bottom on the bitter seed and feel the perfect rhythm of the love we need. Push the timber down, grind the bitter root, feel the smooth design, find the proper root. The damage is a blessing in a solid form, a reliable protection from a passing storm. I realize that hoping for a rigid spine is leaving all the flavor of the heart behind. Love requires a grinding of the outer shell to merge the different layers and to do it well. We let the granite shade the stubborn curve away and found a steady rhythm at the close of day. I lift a heavy handle from the working bowl, accepting the devotion of a shaped soul. The worn pestle turning in the granite base, grind that loyal little partner in a working space. Mix it around the bitter edges to a soothing brown and engineer the flavor we have finally found. You cannot blend the story with a jagged stone. I trust the smooth handle I have always known. The rock is smooth, the scent is deep, we are one.
frame. We bought it looking perfect in a pristine white. It pushed the little hammers with a rigid click. But playing all the music takes a gentle wear, a physical friction in the open air. The fingertips deposit all the natural oils. The pristine white surrenders to a yellow hue, a visual transition meant for me and you. The sharp corners soften to a velvet round, a custom indentation pointing to the ground. It fits the human motion in a flawless glide, erasing all the barriers we used to hide. The faded keys ringing in the living room, a steady little engine fighting off the gloom. We wore the bright perfection to a warmer shade. You cannot play a melody without a touch. I press the yellowed ivory that I love so much. Faded keys ringing in the living room, yeah. A steady little engine fighting off the gloom. We wore the bright perfection to a warmer shade. You cannot play a melody without a touch. I press the yellowed ivory that I love so much. We used to judge the piano by the brilliant gleam, a superficial vanity inside a dream. But shining plastic hesitates beneath the skin, a miserable obstacle when songs begin. The yellowed ivory offers an amazing grace, a flawless navigation in a crowded space. I run my open palm across the dipping slope and feel the steady anchor of a rising hope. Push the timber down, hear the heavy chord, feel the gentle curve, take the sweet reward. A fading is a blessing to the audio wire, a permanent devotion, feeding up the fire. I realize that hoping for an untouched shine is missing all the resonance of your design. Love requires a wearing of the outer glaze to navigate the rhythm of the coming days. We let the passing friction turn the plastic brown and validated every journey through the town. I strike the final chorus on the open stage, accepting the perfection of a turning faded keys ringing in the living room. Play it loud, a steady little engine fighting off the gloom. Hear the sound, we wore the bright perfection to a warmer shade. You cannot play a melody without a touch. I trust the yellowed ivory that I love so much. The keys are dull, the chord is bright, we are safe.
A plastic wheel rolling on a transit floor, a dedicated engine heading for the door. We pushed the heavy luggage in a steady glide. The little metal bearing held a drop in oil, but running dry exposes all the vital steel. A devastating error destroying how we feel. The friction generates a massive growing heat, a terrifying marker of a cold defeat. The iron melts and binds the little silver spheres, erasing all the motion of the given years. The bearing locks together in a solid chunk, a paralyzed mechanic in a pile of junk. I pull the heavy handle, but the plastic drags, a miserable ending holding heavy bags. The rubber scrapes the concrete with an awful scream, a terrifying soundtrack to a broken dream. The metal fuses solid and the rotation dies, a miserable failure under weary eyes. The fuse bearing dragging on the airport floor, a tragic illustration we can take no more. I try to pull the luggage, but the iron binds, a physical reflection of divided minds. You cannot force a spinning when the core is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. The fuse bearing dragging on the airport floor, a tragic illustration we can take no more. I try to pull the luggage, but the iron binds, a physical reflection of divided minds. You cannot force a spinning when the core is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed, of the tears we shed. We acted like the tension was a passing phase, a manageable problem in a summer haze. But dropping lubrication ruins all the flow, a devastating shadow that the lovers know. The luggage acts exactly like a dragon stone, a miserable burden I am left to own. I hear the screaming plastic on the broken joint, and terrible destruction at the breaking point. Pull the silver bar, hear the plastic scrape. Fail to turn a wheel, lose the great escape. The overload destroy the only bridge we made, a microscopic ending to a long charade. I realize I'm pulling an unmoving weight is guaranteeing damage to the closing gate. Love requires a liquid to protect the spin, to regulate the friction and let the healing in. We burned the vital center in a selfish rage and ruined all the actors on the working stage. I dropped the ruined handle in the passing lane, accepting the disaster of a steady pain. The fuse bearing dragging on the airport floor. What just scratch? A tragic illustration we can take no more. Who's the spin? I try to pull the logics, but the iron binds, a physical reflection of divided minds. You cannot force us spinning when the core is dead. I leave the frozen metal in the tears we shed. The gear is dead. The wheel is locked. I am done.
A metal slot resting on an iron box, a designated entry holding heavy locks. We use it to receive the letters in the mail, a functional conclusion to a working tale. But sitting in the elements provides a tax, a physical reduction of the spinning wax. The rain invades the cylinder and finds the pin, the iron oxidizes in a rigid crust. I try to push the copper in the metal door, but geometry refuses such a simple chore. The key is blocked completely by a solid wall, a paralyzed mechanic waiting for a fall. The entry is denied, an iron fuse is tight. I'm miserable, standing in the fading light. The rusted keyhole, blocking up the silver door. A tragic limitation, asking nothing more. I try to push the copper, but the cylinder binds. You cannot gain an entry when the lock is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. Rusted keyhole, blocking up the silver door. A tragic limitation, asking nothing more. I try to push the copper, but the cylinder binds. You cannot gain an entry when the lock is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. Like the boundary was a passing thing, a minor little blemish in the early spring. But rust is an infection stopping every gear, the devastating marker of a broken year. The messages are trapped inside the metal cage, a ghost of an emotion on a written page. I jiggle up the handle but the iron screams, a miserable ending to the waking dream. Just push the golden key, hear the metal scrape. Fail to find the slot, fail to find escape. The friction is a poison to the moving part, a tragic cancellation of a weary heart. I realize the force in an infected joint is ruining the logic of the breaking point. Love requires a maintenance of the inner pin to keep the motion fluid and let the letters in. We left the iron soaking in a bitter storm and ruin all the function of the working form. I drop my weary hands and step away from it, accepting the disaster I must admit. The rusted keyhole, locking up the silver. Let it free. The tragic limitation, asking walk away. I try to push the copper, but the cylinder binds. You cannot gain an entry when the lock is dead. Leave the frozen metal and the tears we shed.
A vessel made of unglazed reddish clay, a porous little circle sitting on a tray. We bought it from an artist in a decade past. A fragile little structure meant to hold and last. It felt a little rough up on the outer skin, a hollow preparation waiting to begin. But pouring boiling water through the bitter leaf introduces patience and a sweet relief. The timber of the tea begins to paint the core. A slow accumulation hiding in the pour. The liquid leaves a memory inside the clay, a microscopic painting on a given day. The surface takes a shiny and a velvet brown, the most reliable container in the town. It remembers every flavor we decided to brew, a physical recording meant for me and you. The clay absorbs the essence of the passing year, a deep and rich aroma that is always near. The seasoned teapot resting in the evening light, a loyal little partner making matters right. We let the porous ceramic drink the bitter dark and engineered a vessel with a glowing spark. You cannot brew a history in a glass of clear. I trust the earthy flavor we are making here. The seasoned teapot resting in the evening light, a loyal little partner making matters right. We let the porous ceramic drink the bitter dark and engineered a vessel with a glowing spark. You cannot brew a history in a glass of clear. I trust the earthy flavor we are making here. We used to need a handful of the heavy spice to make a simple water taste a little nice, but time has given magic to the humble earth, a steady calculation of a growing worth. I pour plain and simple liquid in the pot and draw the deepest flavor from the truth we got. The walls release the sweetness of the days we shared, a liquid demonstration of the way we cared. Pour the water down, let the vapor rise, taste the hidden leaf, look into my eyes. The seasoning is a blessing in a rugged form, a brilliant little shelter from a passing storm. Realize that asking for an empty slate is throwing up the flavor of a change and fade. Love requires a soaking of the inner wall to capture all the substance and embrace it all. We let the heavy liquid paint the inside deep and validated all the promises we keep. I pour a little cup and feel the rising heat, accepting the devotion, making life complete. The seasoned teapot resting in the evening light, pour it out, a loyal little partner making matters right. Keep it warm, we let the porous ceramic drink the bitter dark, oh, and engineered a vessel with a glowing spark. You cannot brew a history in a glass of clear. I trust the earthy flavor we are making here. The clay is rich, the cup is full, we are safe.
A wooden handle sitting on a carbon rod, a simple little anchor testing on the side. We brought it to the river on a summer dawn, a fresh and rigid cylinder to lean upon. The cork was bright and yellow in the early sun, a pristine piece of timber ready for a run. But gripping it for hours takes a steady toll, a physical connection illustration of a patient soul. The fingers rub the surface in a nervous trace. A slow and sweat begin to turn the yellow dark. A lasting illustration of a working mark. The timber wears a valley for a pressing thumb. A physical preparing for the things to come. It fits the human contour in a solid slide. A dedicated shelter on the riverside. The molded grip resting in the morning dew. A loyal piece of timber holding on to you. We wore the bitter edges to a custom slide. And engineered a harbor where the fingers hide. You cannot catch a future with the slippery base. I trust the dark and handle in a quiet space. The molded grip resting in the morning dew. A loyal piece of timber holding on to you. We wore the bitter edges to a custom slide. And engineered a harbor where the fingers hide. You cannot catch a future with the slippery base. I trust the dark and handle in a quiet space. We used to force the action in a frantic rush. A desperate maneuver in the morning hush. But fishing teaches patience to a weary mind. The gentle calibration of the ties that bind. The grooves align exactly with my weary bone. A comforting reminder I am not alone. I cast the heavy metal in the moving stream and hold the solid anchor of a waking dream. Hold the timber tight, watch the water flow. Feel the custom fit, let the tension go. The wearing is a blessing in a solid form. A cozy little shelter from a passing storm. I realize that hoping for a rigid start is missing all the yielding of a working heart. Love requires a rubbing of the outer grain to navigate the weight and then absorb the pain. We let the passing season shape the wooden core and validated everything we bargained for. I pulled a heavy tension on the bending rod, accepting the devotion on the summer side. The molded grip resting in the morning dew. Hold it fire, piece of timber holding on to you. Keep it safe. A custom slide and engineered a harbor where the fingers hide. You cannot catch a future with the slippery base. I trust the dark and handle in a quiet space. The grip is dark. The hold is firm. We are fine.
A glass dome sitting in an iron ember, glowing little heater in a quiet camp. We turn a silver dial to provide a spark, a sudden execution of a deep desire. But holding up a vacuum takes a perfect seal, a fragile glass barrier for the way we feel. We push the volume higher in a reckless test, a miserable error on a sweet request. A microscopic crack appears upon the space. The glowing wire oxidizes in a flash, a devastating ending in a silent crash. The clear glass turns a cloudy and a toxic white, a tragic cancellation in the fading night. The air invades the chamber and the music dies. I try to push the current but the glass is cold. A miserable story that the lovers told. You cannot play a record when the spark is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. Try to push the current but the glass is cold. I try to push the current story that the lovers told. You cannot play a record when the spark is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. We acted like the tension was a given, right? A constant escalation in the fading light, but pushing past the limit kills the inner fire. A silent execution of a deep desire. The speaker sits in silence on the wooden floor, a physical reminder it will sing no more. I tap the cloudy glass with an angry hand, a futile repetition in a broken land. Turn the silver knob, watch the cloudy glass, fail to hear the hum, let the shadow pass. The error was a poison to a fragile dawn, a devastating silence in a broken home. I realized that forcing an unnatural high is asking for a tragedy below the sky. Love requires a shelter from the outside air to generate a resonance we both can share. We cracked the vital border in a selfish rush and forced the conversation to a heavy hush. I pulled the ruined cylinder from the iron base, accepting all the silence in a lonely space. The blown tube freezing in the metal rack, watch it fail. Try to push the current but the glass is cold. A miserable story that the lovers told. You cannot play a record when the spark is dead. I leave the broken cylinder, words we say. The glass is white, the song is dead. I am done.
A wire grid stretching on an iron frame, a quiet little border in a summer game. We slid it on the window to invite the breeze, a cooling integration with the outside trees. It held the flying insects in an outer zone, a designated safety we have always known. But pushing on the metal takes a heavy tear, a microscopic failure in the open air. The nylon thread surrender to a sharp snag, a miserable tear in the safety flag. A tiny hole appears upon the woven screen, a devastating error on a waking scene. The barrier is broken and the wind arrives, carrying the danger to our quiet lives. The buzzing little shadows infiltrate the room, a terrible invasion of a creeping doom. The structure loses logic and the barrier fails. The torn mesh opening a silent gate, a miserable error changing up the fate. I try to block the damage but the insects fly, a devastating failure under weary eye. You cannot find a comfort when the shield is dead. I stare at the invasion of the tears we shed. The torn mesh opening a silent gate, miserable error changing up the fate. I try to block the damage but the insects fly, a devastating failure under weary eye. You cannot find a comfort when the shield is dead. I stare at the invasion of the tears we shed. We acted like the tearing was a minor flaw, a simple little error that we barely saw. Believing out a weakness in a fragile net is guaranteeing sorrow we will soon regret. I have to pull the heavy glass window tight, refusing all the breezes of the fading night. The room is getting stuffy with the bitter heat, a physical translation of a sad defeat. Touch the broken wire, see the shadows fly. requires a netting that is firm and tight to filter out the danger in the fading light. With the vital barrier and a careless move, it'll ruin all the safety in a narrow groove. I like the heavy window and the wooden sill, accepting that the air is forever still. The torn mesh, open in a silent gate. Watch it fade. Air, changing up the fake close. I try to fix the damage, but the insects fly. A devastating failure under weary eye. You cannot find a comfort when the shield is dead. I leave the broken window and the tears we shed. The mesh is torn. The room is hot. I am done.
Yeah. A fabric square resting on the wooden desk, a boundary line for a complicated task. We bought it with a woven and a rigid grain. It gave a stiff resistance to the laser light. But sliding plastic takes a gradual wear, a physical erasing in the open air. The center of the cotton rubs into a fade. It takes the steady motion and easy grace, a custom integration in a working space. The rigid fabric yields to the moving hand, the perfect calibration in a working land. The worn mousepad, laying on the flat design, a loyal little partner making matters fine. We ground the bit of friction to a velvet clear. You cannot guide an arrow on a jagged track. I trust the faded cotton, never looking back. Hey. The worn mousepad, laying on the flat design, a loyal little partner making matters fine. We ground the bit of friction to a velvet clear. You cannot guide an arrow on a jagged track. I trust the faded cotton, never looking back. We used to force the issue in a rigid way, a halting conversation at the start of day. But rubbing down the ego makes the surface smooth, a reliable connection in a working groove. The pad is much darker where the hand resides, a physical devotion that it never hides. I move the plastic arrow with a gentle touch, accepting all the magic that I love so much. Slide the plastic mouse, feel the fiber give, clear the narrow path, find the way to live. The damage is a blessing to the running speed, a brilliant little harbor for the love we need. I realize that hoping for an untouched weave is throwing out the magic that we can't believe. Love requires a rubbing of the outer face to navigate the turning in a steady pace. We let the passing friction wear the cotton down and validated every journey through the town. I rest my weary fingers on the faded black, accepting all the comfort on a steady track. The worn mousepad, laying on the flat design, a loyal little partner making matters fine. We ground the bit of friction to a velvet clear. You cannot got an arrow on a jagged track. I trust the faded cotton, never looking back. Is clear, the move is right, we are fine. Yeah. A wooden wedge sliding on the entry floor, a designated block for the heavy door. We cut it with a sharpen. It cut it with the pressure, the further snag. Picking it to position takes a heavy toll. Yeah.
but kicking it to position takes a heavy toll. The physical erasing of the wooden soul. The friction of the leather wears the corner round. The daily repetition on the solid ground. The slides beneath the timber with the velvet ease, and locks the swinging portal in the morning breeze. The damage makes the angle an exact fit, a reliable mechanic that will never quit. The timber trays the danger for a steady holder, dedicated partner getting brave and oh, the smooth wedge acting as an iron break, a loyal little soldier for the lover's sake. We wore the biting edges to a velvet slide, each engineered a shelter where the secrets hide. You cannot hold a portal with the fragile glass. I trust the faded timber as the seasons pass. Wedge acting as an iron break, a loyal little soldier for the lover's sake. We wore the biting edges to a velvet slide, and engineered a shelter where the secrets hide. You cannot hold a portal with a fragile glass. I trust the faded timber as the seasons pass. We used to fight the opening with a heavy lock, a miserable standing on the ticking clock, but finding out a balance makes the burden light. A flawless navigation in the faded night. The wood absorbs the pressure of the swinging weight, a dedicated harbor at the entry gate. I push the wooden triangle with a casual kick and marvel at the logic of a working trick. Push the timber deep, feel the portal hold. Catch the heavy door, let the truth unfold. The rounding is an asset in a rugged form, a brilliant little shelter from a passing storm. Realize that hoping for a rigid block is throwing out the magic of a steady light. Love requires a rubbing of the pointing peak to generate the harmony the lovers seek. We let the passing footwear shave the danger out and washed away the center of a lingering doubt. I watched the faded timber in the open gap, accepting the perfection of a working map. The smooth wedge acting as an iron break, hold it firm, soldier for the lover's sake. Keep it wide, edges to a velvet slide, and engineered a shelter where the secrets hide. You cannot hold a portal with a fragile glass. I trust the faded timber as the seasons pass. The door is open, the wedge is strong, we are safe.
Blade is stuck, the page is torn. I am done. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A metal tool sitting on a working desk, a heavy little iron for a simple task. We push the written paper in the narrow slit. We press the silver handle to extract the core, a functional mechanic on the office floor. But sitting in the moisture takes a fatal toll, a chemical destruction of the iron soul. The internal cylinder develops an orange rust. I push the heavy lever with the hopes and pain. The blade descends a fraction, but the iron binds, a physical reflection of dividing minds. It stops inside the paper in a frozen trap, a miserable error on a working map. The blade refuses moving to a proper cut, remaining in the tragedy with jaws shut. The mechanism freezes and the paper tears, a devastating answer to the open prayers. A rusted punch jamming in the middle zone, a tragic little error I am left to own. I try to clear the damage, but the handle locks, a miserable puzzle in a broken box. You cannot bind a chapter when the cut is dead. I stare at the disaster of the tears we shed. The rusted punch jamming in the middle zone, a tragic little error I am left to own. rapid fix. A temporary magic in a bag of tricks, but forcing and infected in the broken blade destroys the final document the love has made. The paper rips and wrinkles on the metal spine, a devastating ending for your heart and mind. I try to pull the lead up, but the iron holds. It's a terrifying story that the fear unfolds. Push the metal arm, hear the iron grind. Watch the paper rip, leave the hope behind. The cutting is a poison to a steady frame. A devastating ending in the losing game. I realize that forcing an unyielding spring is asking for the shattering of everything. Love requires emotion that is sharp and clean to document the ending of a fading scene. We left the iron soaking in a bitter storm and ruined all the function of the working form. I dropped the jam plastic in the garbage bin, accepting the disaster of the state I am in. The rusted punch jamming in the middle zone, watch it tear. Tragic little error I am left to own. Lose, I try to clear the damage, but the handle locks. A miserable puzzle in a broken box. You cannot find a chapter when the cut is dead. I leave the broken iron and the tears we shed. Blade is stuck, the page is torn, I am done. The blade is stuck, the page is torn, I am done.
A clay design, a clay design, resting on the wooden floor. A designated harbor asking nothing more. We placed a heavy planter on the waiting plate to catch the falling water of a shifting fate. It held the muddy liquid in a steady ring, a silent operation for a growing thing. But bumping on the corner leaves a hairline break, a microscopic error in a sad mistake. The fracture runs invisible across the base, a hidden complication in a quiet space. The water finds a passage through the broken clay, a miserable leakage at the close of day. It seeps into the timber of the bedroom board, an inundation we can never well afford. The wood begins to rot beneath the heavy pot, a devastating damage of the truth we got. The vessel fails its duty and the water runs, a quiet cancellation of the rising sun. The crack saucer leaking in the fading light, a devastating failure in the middle of night. I try to wipe the puddle but the timber stains, a miserable record of the passing pains. You cannot hold a shelter when the base is torn. I stare at the disaster, feeling tired and worn. The crack saucer leaking in the fading light, a devastating failure in the middle of night. I try to wipe the puddle but the timber stains, a miserable record of the passing pains. You cannot hold a shelter when the base is torn. I stare at the disaster, feeling tired and worn. We acted like the safety was a rigid wall, ignoring all the symptoms of a heavy fall, believing not a weakness in a fragile trays, guaranteeing sorrow we will have to pay. The floorboards buckle under the relentless wet, a physical reminder we do not forget. We nurtured up a flower in an open room and engineered the making of our very doom. Touch the broken clay, watch the water seep, feel the rotting wood, lose the peace we keep. The flaw is an infection tearing up the base, a devastating ruin in a quiet space. I realize that hoping for an unseen man is guaranteeing disaster for a working friend. Love requires a container that is sealed and tight to separate the water from the fading light. We shocked the fragile clay in a careless move and ruined all the timber in a narrow groove. I lift the heavy planter from the rotting mold, accepting the reality getting dark and old. The cracked saucer leaking in the fading light, just a devastated failure in the middle of night. I try to wipe the puddle but the timber stains, a miserable record of the passing pains. You cannot hold a shelter when the base is torn. I leave the ruined ceramic feeling tired and worn.
A wooden board resting on a working stand, a simple canvas waiting for a moving hand. We bought it flat with the perfect and a level face. It took the heavy colors of the vivid paint, a quiet operation with a soft restraint. But mixing up the pigment takes a steady toll, a fizzle recording of a working soul. The water and the chemicals invade the grain, a constant soaking leaving up a vivid stain. The board begins to bend and takes a wavy shape, a gentle deviation making an escape. It loses all the aesthetic of a rigid flat, becoming something different where the colors set. The curve provide a hollow where the pigment pools, a brilliant little asset for the working tools. The timber trays the level for a steady bend, the warp palette holding up the vivid dye, a loyal little harbor under summer sky. We let the passing moisture twist the wooden core and engineered a vessel. We can ask for more. You cannot mix a picture on a rigid plane. I trust the bent timber and the colorful stain. The warp palette holding up the vivid dye, a loyal little harbor under summer sky. We let the passing moisture twist the wooden core and engineered a vessel. We can ask for more. You cannot mix a picture on a rigid plane. I trust the bent timber and the colorful stain. We used to judge the surface by spotless white, a superficial vanity blocking out the light. But sterile wood refuses all the heavy blend, a terrifying boundary will not bend. The dip inside the timber gathers up the red, combining with the yellow of the words we said. I swirl the little brush inside the wooden bowl and capture all the magic of a beating soul. Mix the yellow bright, let the timber curve, watch the color pool, see the passion serve. The warping is a blessing in a rugged form, a brilliant little shelter from a passing storm. I realize that keeping up an untouched board is missing all the colors we can well afford. Love requires a bending of the outer spine to integrate the pigment of your life and mine. We let the liquid ruin up the perfect straight and validated all the magic of our fate. I picked the heavy timber with a steady grip, accepting the devotion on a painting trip. The warp palette holding up the vivid dye, a loyal little harbor under summer sky. We let the passing moisture twist the wooden core and engineered a vessel. We can ask for more. You cannot mix a picture on a rigid plane. I trust the bent timber and the colorful stain. Engine working all alone. We bought it with a rigid and a heavy high to push the air forward with a stubborn press, a stiff manipulation of the evening mess. The feeding at the fire takes a constant beat, a daily repetition on the winter seat. The leather folds and creases on the pumping hinge, a physical recording on the outer fringe. The surface wears 1,000 little crossing lines, a beautiful collection of the dark designs. It loses all the stiffness of the early day, becoming just a lung to blow the cold away. It breathes the oxygen directly to the core, a dedicated engine asking nothing more. The fabric yields its tension to a steady breath, a brilliant operation fighting off the death. The worn bellows pumping in the fading light, a loyal little partner making matters right. We folded up the leather to a custom crease and engineered a shelter in a winter piece. You cannot wake an ember with a rigid chest. I pumped the faded fabric for a sweet request. The worn bellows pumping in the fading light, a loyal little partner making matters right. We folded up the leather to a custom crease and engineered a shelter in a winter piece. You cannot wake an ember with a rigid chest. I pumped the faded fabric for a sweet request. We used to value leather by an
untouched face, superficial logic in a freezing space. But pristine covers hesitate to push the wind, a miserable obstacle we often pen. The wrinkled hide extends and takes a massive draw, the most reliable mechanic that we ever saw. I push the wooden handles with a steady glide and watch the orange fire growing deep inside. Push the timber arm, feel the leather fold, watch the ember burn, fight the winter cold. The creasing is a blessing in a rugged form, a cozy little shelter from a passing storm. I realize that keeping up a flawless hide is stopping all the oxygen we need inside. Love requires a folding of the outer skin to feed the vital ember and let the fire in. We let the daily pumping wear the texture out and washed away the center of a lingering doubt. I hang the wooden handles on the iron hook, accepting all the magic of the time it took. The worn bellows pumping in the fading light, a loyal little partner making matters stay. We folded up the leather to a custom crease and engineered a shelter in a winter piece. You cannot wake an ember with the rigid chest. I trust the faded fabric for a sweet request. The hide is soft, the flame is bright. We are warm. We are warm. To create a path, the calculating worker for the sewing math. It punctured through the cowhide with a sharp design, a flawless navigation on a working line. But sitting in the toolbox for a humid year invites a chemical reaction we should fear. The iron oxidizes to a toxic brown, a devastating marker in a quiet town. The point becomes a brittle and a rounded dome, a miserable error in a working home. I push the heavy handle on a leather belt, expecting a conclusion of the way I felt. But pushing on the surface leaves a nasty tear, a devastating ending in the open air. The spike refuses piercing and the fabric breaks, a loud and clear reflection of the past mistakes. The rusted awl tearing on the heavy hide, a tragic separation on a dark divide. I try to make a passage but the iron fails, a miserable tearing of the sinking sails. You cannot punch a future with a blunt decay. I stare at the disaster at the close of day. The rusted awl tearing on the heavy hide, a tragic separation on a dark divide. I try to make a passage but the iron fails, a miserable tearing of the sinking sails. You cannot punch a future with a blunt decay. I stare at the disaster at the close of day. We acted like the sharpness was an endless trade, a guaranteed precision on a moving day. But time destroys the focus of an idle mind, a terrifying shadow we have left behind. The leather is a jagged and a ruined mess, a physical translation of a deep distress. I try to force the needle but it slips away, a devastating closure to a working day. Push the wooden handle, hear the fabric rip, fail to make the hole sink the weary ship. The iron is a poison to a steady seam, a devastating ending to a working dream. I realize that forcing an infected point is ruining the fabric of a vital joint. Love requires the sharpness to create a space, to navigate the sewing in a steady pace. So we let the silent moisture eat the silver tip, then forced a ragged ending on a sinking ship. I dropped the ruined iron in in the plastic tray, accepting that the fabric is pulled away. The rusted awl, tearing on the heavy hide. Watch it tear, a tragic separation on a dark day. Lose the light. I try to make a passage, but the iron fails. A miserable tearing of the sinking sails. You cannot punch a future with a blunt decay. I leave the rusted metal at the close of day. The point is dead. The hide is torn, I am done.
A glass dome sitting in a heavy frame, a waterproof defender in a diving game. We took it to the ocean for a coral view, a visual recording meant for me and you. The rubber ring protected all the inner gear, a flawless operation keeping matters clear. But sitting in the sun degrades the rubber seal, a microscopic damage to the way we feel. We dove into the current with a heavy trust, ignoring all the symptoms of a growing dust. The pressure of the ocean finds the broken ring, a catastrophic failure of a fragile thing. The salt water rushes in the inner space, erasing all the beauty in a rapid pace. The lens is full of liquid in a blurry white, a miserable ending to a perfect sight. The water floods the chamber and the vision dies, a devastating blindness under weary eyes. The flooded lens sinking in the ocean deep, a tragic limitation that the shadows keep. I try to take a picture but the glass is dead, a physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot frame a future with a drowning eye. I stare at the disaster as the currents fly. Flooded lens sinking in the ocean deep, a tragic limitation that the shadows keep. I try to take a picture but the glass is dead, a physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot frame a future with a drowning eye. I stare at the disaster as the currents fly. We acted like the barrier was forever strong, defying all the warnings of a dying song. But water is a master of the smallest crack, a devastating enemy that never looks back. The liquid sloshes trapped inside the heavy dome, a miserable ghost inside a broken home. I look into the viewfinder and see the tide, a total inundation of a foolish pride. Push the silver switch, watch the liquid sway, fail to catch the light, throw the dream away. The barrier is broken by a careless way, a terrible conclusion to a drowning fate. I realize I'm sinking with the broken seal, is burying the truth of everything we feel. Love requires a barrier that is firm and tight, to navigate the ocean and to keep the light. We let the rubber perish in a selfish run, and ruined all the vision of the passing sun. I dropped the ruined camera in the diving bin, accepting the disaster of the state I am in. Flooded lens sinking in the ocean deep, watch it drown, a tragic limitation that the shadows keep. Lose the sight. I try to take a picture but the glass is dead, a physical reflection of the tears we shed. You cannot frame a future with a drowning eye. I leave the ruined camera as the currents fly.